Welcome back to another episode of Inboxing. Inboxing has grown in such amazing ways. I'm so excited about today's guest, and I want to give a big thanks and shout out to Ongage for sponsoring season 2. Ongage is a fantastic platform for sending emails in so many ways. It's really very data heavy, and so you can really use any data point email program better and better. Anyway, so let's talk about the guest. Today's guest is Mark Robbins. And Mark Robbins, I kind of felt like, as coming from as a developer, like Mark Robbins was the guy like sitting on top of the chain. There's like a few guys I don't know where he is today, or who's the other guy? Remy Parmentier. They were like, but I felt like always like Mark was like at the top of that totem pole or whatever. But like basically he was and he is an email developer, but he was such a help and such a resource for all email developers because he was always able to hack the system and just clue us into what's going on and how we could get around weird things that we're seeing on our test emails and how to fix everything pretty much. So without any further ado, please welcome Mark Robbins. Lily Worth says hi. And there he is.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank God. You heard the intro. I'm curious to know how you felt about that.
Well, that's a big intro. I just mess about with code. I don't know. This just happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that seems to be like your personality, and like that, and yeah, I guess when we were like stuck, like we just felt like we're up against a brick wall, and like that didn't stop you. You're just like, okay, what's going on behind that wall, and let's figure this out.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my gosh, how did he get backstage? Like, that's unbelievable. But anyway, let's jump into the questions. Mark Robbins. All right. So how did this all begin? No one started an email. Every guest has always said, yeah, I fell into email. So how did you fall into email?
Yeah, I fell into email. So it was about 10 years ago. I was unemployed. I was unemployed for about 6 months. So like the first half of 2012. And I was like scratching around trying to find work, looking at all kinds of stuff. Couldn't really, wasn't getting many bites. And then a friend of mine, the guitarist from the band I was in, he got me an interview at the place where he was working in the marketing team. And yeah, I went to the interview. Went well. They said, have you got experience of building HTML emails? I was like, yeah. How hard could it be? So they gave me a little Photoshop document. It's all right, can you build this into an email just as a little sort of test project, just to test my skills? So over the weekend, quick Google, how do you build HTML email? And then I sent something back and they was, oh yeah, it's really good. They really liked it. Okay, cool. So I got the job. And yeah, it was good. It was good fun working at companies and great people. And I just sort of started to dig into it a bit more and more to try and understand like email and why are things done in a certain way. And just I saw a lot of opportunity there and just learned how to love it, really. It was a good time.
All right, that's awesome. I think we all kind of started that way also. But who can do email? Okay, I can do email. And then we used to, get templates from Envato with like huge bloated code and it looked like something impossible to figure out. But then we eventually did. Did you ever buy any templates before you made your own, or you just started, writing HTML code? Like,
so I'd already done a bit of HTML before. I did a little course, just sort of like an evening course, like in my previous job, and learned sort of the basics of HTML, CSS, and a tiny bit of JavaScript, and so I could navigate around a website, and I could sort of do a bit of coding there and just make a few simple updates. And then when I started an email, it was find a template online and then just do my own thing with it. But then constantly sort of searching and finding resources where I could to try and teach myself as much as possible and try and understand it all. And there was not as many resources back then as there are now.
For sure, for sure. Did you always have a handle on like CSS? Like, cause you'd find properties you've never heard of, and find a hack using that property or.
Yeah. So
like
CSS, I like it. It makes sense to me. HTML and CSS makes sense to me because it's all very visual and you can see it. And yeah, one of the things I did when I moved to working at Rebel and when I started there is I just went through the spec and I just read through CSS and I was like, okay, what can we use here? What little tricks and quirks are there in this that we can exploit to do something new and exciting with email? So I just, I think I did literally just go through every single thing. It's like, okay, what's that do? Okay, read it. Okay, that's fine. That's what I expected. Like margins. Okay, this is how they work. Okay, that's simple. And then, yeah, just carrying on through. And I still do that to this day. It's just reading over the spec of CSS and HTML.
Right. Well, they keep expanding it, right? Like, I mean, CSS comes up with new.
There's a lot of really cool stuff coming soon. So
oh, really?
I'm excited about.
Well, it's gonna probably take another 20 years till it reaches email, but.
Well, I think we'll have the has selector it should hopefully be an Apple Mail, maybe this year, maybe next year.
Oh, really? That exists already? Like a has selector?
So it's in Safari Tech Preview. Okay. So that means it should be coming into Safari soon-ish, maybe this year, maybe next year. And when it comes into Safari, when that's updated, Apple Mail gets updated at the same time. So unless they block it, which I don't see any reason why they would.
Why would they would?
Because Apple Mail is very free with the CSS.
Right, they're their best friend.
And then you can use the has selector, and you can do a lot with that. There's a lot more you can do with interactive email stuff when you're using a has selector, because it changes the way the cascade works, because you can put a selector on the parent element, which is dependent on things of the child. So you can say this body has this thing that's checked, and then anything inside that body you can edit. So it doesn't have to be something after the checked item. And also we can then start using select menus in interactive email, because you can detect if what is selected in a select menu with a has selector, which gives a load more options as well. So that's something that's very exciting. I think we could do some cool stuff with.
For sure. Can you tell us a little bit more about getting to Rebel Mail and like what you were doing there, and then eventually you guys were bought by Salesforce, right?
Yeah. So so for Rebel Mail, I was working away and in my job previously at the Learning People, and I was enjoying that and it was good. But I was sort of getting to a point where a lot of the stuff that I was interested in is sort of playing around with email, and it was quite samey what we were sending out. And because that's what we were doing, it wasn't, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to mix it up too much, because it was one company doing one thing.
Right, it was standard working at a company that does regular email. They don't wanted everything to be, a game.
And also I automated a lot of the processes, so sort of partly put myself out of the job, which I've done many times over the years, but that's always a good thing to do if you can do that. And I saw this article about a company that just raised like some seed funding to do an email startup doing like interactive email stuff. So, this is amazing. I shared it on Twitter. I got 3 likes, 2 of which were the 2 founders of the company. So I got brilliant. Okay, cool. So I got chatting to them, and yeah, there wasn't many people doing anything with interactive email at the time. I sent them some of the stuff that I'd done, and they'd already seen it, and they
like they knew you, even though you didn't know them. They knew who you were.
Yeah, well, we sort of I think we found out about each other around the same sort of time, and it's like, well, we're doing the same stuff, although we're quite far apart. It seems to make sense for us to work together, and I was the first employee at Rebel. So that was really cool, and that was really, really exciting. Because I remember reading that article, I was like, I'd love to work with these guys or do something like this, and then getting that job.
Did you stay in London? I mean, in the UK for that? Like, was it
Yeah.
remote, or you went to New York, right?
I went to DC, Washington DC,
DC.
for a month when I first started there, and worked there for a month. And it was sort of a bit of a, let's just sort of see how this works, and we'll do that for a month and see if everything gels. And at the end of that month, do I want to move over there, or are they okay with me being remote? And then it went to being remote after that, and it worked really well.
And so you're one of the first remote, way before 2020. You were doing remote.
Yeah, I think it was maybe a year or two into Rebel being set up. There was 6 people working in the company in 5 different locations. It was I think we had someone in Puerto Rico, LA, New York, DC, and me over in Brighton, in the UK.
So. Were you guys like an agency, like doing interactive emails for companies, or like what was the model?
It was more of a tool. It's like a self-serve tool. So we would build the components, then you could come in and you could build
okay, like an editor that you could say.
Yeah, but we were just doing the interactive part of the email. So you would paste in your code that goes like sort of around it, and we would build the interactive part. But we did sort of do, particularly in the early days, as you have to, a lot of hand holding. So we were sort of effectively functioning as an agency to some extent for some of our clients, because we were building the tool. We didn't have it all there yet, and we were learning what their needs were. So that was good, to sort of doing a bit of all angles of it. So building it up, and then and it got popular, and Salesforce thought that's a cool thing. We should buy that.
let's get one of those.
So so we most of the team moved over to Salesforce, and a lot of us are still here.
Oh, I'm saying you're still, but you are working for Salesforce. Like, I want to like.
So yeah,
you're saying some people left and went to work for Salesforce, but like you're still basically doing the same thing.
Yeah. So the company, a few people sort of dropped off as the company was bought, and then I think a couple of people sort of moved around a bit, but most of us in Salesforce. So mostly I'm still working with the same people that I was working with at Rebel. We had sort of people come into the team and go out of the team a little bit, but mostly.
Got it. So you're basically doing the same job, like the same, same work.
Yeah, just a slightly bigger scale. I think it's, now it's a company of like 60,000-70,000 people, which is
right. Which is it's a small country.
A little bigger.
All right, that question took a while, but all right, what do you find most upsetting, when in your inbox? Like, what kind of emails do you get that you're just like, oh, what are they doing?
For me, it's just user experience, like bad user experience. And a lot of that comes from companies thinking about themselves and not about the user. Like something like a no reply email address. Oh, they're a real pain because you get all these out of office things bouncing back to you. But essentially what you're doing is you're going into somebody's inbox, you're going up to the user, to the customer, you're telling them something, then you're covering your ears and walking away. You're not listening to any replies. It's just disrespectful. Like, email is a 2-way channel. Don't treat it as a 1-way channel. Like, you need to allow that. And if you have, there's ways of monitoring it. You can, like, you don't have to monitor that exact response, but if somebody hits reply to that email, give them an option. Like, don't say this inbox is unmonitored. Say, we're not using this inbox, but please forward it on here, or do something like that to allow your user to interact. And other things like the user experience is like withholding information. If I get an email telling me, oh, we've got an update on your account, or you've got a new message, or something like that, it's like, right, what is it? Tell me what it is.
It's the worst. You get that from the bank.
Yeah, it is. Like, some things there are like potentially privacy issues, and I need to log in to get that. But when there isn't those issues, then why aren't you telling me it? And the reason you're not telling me that is because you want clicks. You want click through. You rate your click through and your stats higher than you rate your customers. That's a bad user experience. Tricking users into clicking is not a good thing to do. Like over promising and under delivering as well is another one that does that. And if you're going to keep doing that bad user experience, then I'm going to unsubscribe. And if you try and block that in any way, if you're asking me to log in to unsubscribe, you're asking me to do all these things to unsubscribe, if you're complicating that process, I'm just going to mark it as spam. And I think a lot of users do that as well. It's treat your customers with respect. Like user experience is very, very important, and I think a lot of people overlook that.
For sure. Are we hearing like street noise or like there is some? Are you hearing noise at all? Like I'm hearing like a little background hum.
There's my fan on my computer's going crazy.
Okay.
It might be that, but there is a road just outside as well. It's
all right. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just there. You know what I mean?
Okay,
like,
good.
Sort of like a white noise kind of thing. All right. Yeah, just mentioning about not having a do not reply return address. Like when you have a real address, people will respond with a random problem. Like they're having an issue. Like they're happy to get an email and respond. So many, when you have that available, it works and it improves customer service, and everything. So just, I'm proud to say that when I was working at a company, our reply to was talk to us at company.com. Like we're here, we're real people. All right. Well, what have you screwed up? I mean, when you're tinkering, I'm sure, there's, you must have something.
Yeah. I mean, making mistakes is something that happens to all of us. Break things, and I try as much as possible to do all my mistakes, all my breaking things in the testing before actually sending anything. But one thing that went out, which was a bit of a mistake, is I did this. It was back in my first job, and I had this really cool looking like infographic email, and there's like loads of cool information on it, and it looked really good, and I was really happy with it, and like all sort of live text and stuff, and it was great. Didn't actually have any call to action. It is no sort of like link that was styled like a button, nothing really saying, and then find out more and it'll do anything you can do from it. So I was promoting all this stuff without actually telling people how to consume it. So it's kind of like almost the opposite of what I was saying before about like hiding all that information and just asking for a click. I was giving all the information, but like not giving any action that you can take on it. So that was a mistake. There were still links there. We still got some clicks, but it was not.
It was a missed opportunity.
That was a mistake.
All right, let's flip the coin. So what was your biggest win?
I think like one of the biggest things was moving to Rebel. Like getting to work at Rebel was just a big jump in my career. It's like I can focus completely on this thing that I enjoy, and I'm all right at. I'm pretty good at this, and the people seem to like what I say around it, and I get to do this full time, and it's fun. And we're actually doing new things and like pushing boundaries with it. That was definitely one of the biggest things. And then sort of taking that out and sort of sharing it with people, and like people wanting to hear my opinions around it, and doing conferences and stuff, and particularly going into like the web conference circuit and doing a load of web conferences. Like people want to web. I generally don't have a very high opinion of email and email code. And then being able to go to like these big web conferences, and people are listening to what I'm saying about it, and I'm sort of changing a few minds, and people find it interesting, and it's sort of almost like going into a hostile audience. Although everybody was lovely, but their opinions around email maybe were a bit hostile, and actually sort of changing some minds. That was definitely a big win, I think.
For sure. Any particular big wins that you had in email that you sent, like meaning that like I don't know, like blew away expectations, that kind of thing?
I don't actually see much of the results because I'm always on the sort of the building side of it. I don't actually see the results a lot, but I know a lot of the stuff that we sent, like with particularly like the forms in an email, and I think sort of doing reviews in an email and things like that, it's we definitely saw some very, very good results on that. I think we like doubled conversion on a few brands, because it's just simplifying the process. It's coming back to that user experience thing. If it's like, here's a form in an email and you can see exactly what it is, it's the transparency there, you can see what all the questions are, you can see how long the form is, rather than asking somebody to click and then see the form on the landing page. You're actually showing it to them, so you've got that transparency, and it's just, you're changing the question. You're not saying, would you like to leave a review? You're saying, what do you think? And I think that those have had some really big results, but I don't have case studies as such, unfortunately, and there's lots of information that I can't share as well around that, I think. So but generally, they're great.
All right. So how did you become like this Neo of the email coding world? Somebody, worked as the developer. It seems like you were like inside the matrix, where we were all just all the regular people walking around.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of just make sense to me. There's a lot of things I'm very, very bad at, but like this is logical and it makes sense to me. It just sort of, it adds up. Like, code is logical, even when it seems like it's being illogical. There is logic behind it because it's all written in a way. So when an email client is stripping something out, there's a reason they're doing that, and it's not always, sometimes it's buggy the way that they've done it, but there's a reason it's buggy, and it's because of this or because of that. So having that sort of idea of why these things are happening, I find that really fascinating, and it makes me want to dig into it and understand it more. And I think that sort of, and because I have this fascination and I really this want for understanding why all the time, that's what's really helped me sort of dig in and get this knowledge around it. Just because I'm really interested in it as well. Why is it? Oh, why is this not working? And then it's like, okay, looking into that and finding an answer.
All right. Was that a lot of testing? Like I'm saying, and then you like have ideas and you're like, okay, let's see if this will work. Let's try that.
Yeah, and it's and lots of very small testing. So I'm doing a bit of testing around MSO styles at the moment. There's a new post that's coming out soon, and I've just on a P tag putting an MSO style, putting some values in it, sending it as a test. What happens? And that's just like a single like P element in like that's it, and it's what's happening there, and it's really sort of breaking it down into very, very small bits, and then you start adding it up. And it's the same when you get a bug in your code you're sending. Just start pulling chunks of code out until the bug's not there anymore, and then slowly reintroduce them, and then you can find out and just find this. If you can if you can reproduce a bug with the smallest amount of code possible, then you can understand it, and that's what's really, really helps.
All right, awesome. All right, so what are your top tips, let's say, for either new email people getting into, new people getting into developing emails, or on the other hand, for marketers?
So we're all different. We all sort of learn in different ways. So understanding how you yourself learn and develop is something that is pretty key, and that's something that I've sort of focused a lot on, because I'm dyslexic, so I don't learn. I did very badly at school. I don't learn in the traditional way, but I can learn a lot in my own way. So understanding that really helps. And for me, a lot of it is asking questions, like I was saying, just asking, why is this done this way? And then like, okay, it's done this way because of this. Okay, well, why is that way? Okay, but then why is that way? And just sort of going deeper and deeper. Another thing is sharing your knowledge. Like do a talk, go to a meetup, do a talk, write a article around it, a blog post, or like an internal meetup, or anything you can do, just sharing your knowledge. Because when you're trying to explain something, it really exposes the gaps in your knowledge. And I think if you can, when you're trying to do that and then you sort of start filling those in, that really helps. And it's something I try and do with my website on goodemailcode.com. Go and check it out. I try and go through line by line and explain every line of code. Why is this style here? What is it doing? What bug is it fixing? What email clients are affected by this? And it can really help you sort of write better code and understand the code more. And if things change, then it's like, okay, I can replace this or I can remove it completely. And because this email client's done an update and I don't need to worry about that bug anymore. So that's, yeah, just really sort of trying to understand it and working out what's best for you and how you would understand it, how you're going to learn that, I think is key.
All right. All right. What are the top pitfalls or like big mistakes you see people making all the time?
I think time is the biggest issue, I think. I've been very lucky throughout my career. Every job I've had, I've been given time and space and opportunity to learn, to experiment, to try things out, and then to implement them if they work. I think a lot of people try things out, but it's okay, we can try this out, but you have to put it into a campaign because your time needs to be accounted for. This, okay, you can try this, but you have to send it. And that's, yeah, that seems really off to me. It's, you want to try it and learn it, and then if you can use it, then send it. And I think, so giving people time to, if you're, you know, if you don't have that, the experience that I have where I've been given all this time, ask for it. If you manage people, make sure you give them the time. And also, like I said before, it's about understanding yourself and how you learn. I can't learn from reading things. I need to do things. I need to be like practical experience to try and learn things. So yeah, work out what's best for you. So, and try and get that time to do it. And yeah, and give people time if you have that, if you're in charge of them.
If you're in that position.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. All right. What frustrates you the most about the way email is right now?
It just feels like we're very close to greatness. There is a lot of very good information out there about how to do really good design, really good code, really good accessibility, really good strategy, like all these really great things that you can do. And the majority of the email I receive doesn't. And there's a disconnect. There's a few brands doing some incredible stuff, and there's a lot of brands not. And it's just sort of, and even the brands doing great stuff aren't necessarily putting all those pieces in. They might be doing one thing very well, but not other bits. And it's just, the information's out there, and I just want to see like it all come together. And I think, again, that's probably coming down to time. And it's okay, we can redo everything, but everything is already set up this way. So it's hard to.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen that from the other side of it. Yeah. Like brands are so overwhelmed, like to just get out their weekly campaigns and know that it's just, yeah, like there's no experimentation. There's no best practice. It's just like, okay, we got to get this out.
And like email works, email makes companies a lot of money, and you can improve it and you can make more money. If you're getting a really good ROI on your email and you give that a little bump, like, then that's going to be a bigger bump than if you put that time and effort into something that's not giving you a big ROI. So actually put the time and effort in and give people the resources, allow people to like redo things and push the boundaries.
All right. So on the flip side, like what brands do you see, doing a great job in the inbox and really checking all your boxes?
Yeah, I think actually I got an email this morning from Bulb, who are my energy supplier, and their emails always look really good. They're like nice sort of big font, simple layout, very easy to read, like cool little GIFs, great like graphics. Unfortunately, the company has gone under in this big energy crisis we're in at the moment, but I'm still getting emails while they're in administration. So that sucks, but hopefully I'd like to see their team go on to do some really cool stuff. Also, like BBC are doing some great emails. I think they work a lot with Action Rocket,
they definitely do.
Brilliant agency, and like they're doing some stuff, and also Channel 4, who I think work with CACI on a lot of their stuff. Like both those brands, like British TV channels, are great. I don't know if the rest of the
Right.
world.
Yeah, I figured.
The same,
I think you were
but,
talking about NBC in New York, but
like, but yeah, those two, like the British TV, go for it. It's really really good, and really sort of pushing boundaries, doing like great design, like loads of innovation, like interactive email, animation. Like there's a cool Channel 4 one which had like dynamic CSS in it, so it had a live score of the football game that was on at the time, and it's just updating in the email. It's so cool. And like all the like the BBC like interactive stuff they've done for all the David Attenborough things,
all the Planet Earth stuff, and
it's so good, and it's like, this is really engaging. It really stands out because not many people are doing it, and
right.
so it's
and the truth is, they put so much into making that, making those series, Planet Earth, Planet Earth 2. I mean, it's like I don't know how many millions are spent on the project, but a lot. And like the email was just like Planet Earth. That would suck. Yeah. So good for them for putting the money into it and making sure that the email's as wow worthy as the content itself.
And yeah, actually, there's an email for the new series of Fargo. Not the new one, but a few years ago, Fargo on Channel 4 did, and it looked really simple. It was just Fargo is back, and it was like CSS animation, I think, of the words coming in, but that fall back to just having the text. But it just so much impact, like seeing that like big email with just simple like text, so you don't have to do like loads of flashy things, and it was like just looked so clean and so beautiful, and it gave you all the information you needed.
Right. At the end of the day, that's the main goal, should be that an email delivers the information it's intended to deliver.
Yeah.
In the best way possible. Like, and a lot of the frustrations are always that it's not done in the best way possible. It's not easy to read. It's not, it's all kinds of issues. The do not reply address. All right. So what are some of the advantages of custom code, over an editor? It's interesting because you also mentioned, at Rebel, what you're building is an editor in essence.
Yeah.
So yes, you kind of have.
Like, it's like editors, drag and drop things, frameworks, all this stuff is really good for building email and building things fast, and you don't need all this specialist knowledge. But if you're doing it with custom code, one of the big advantages is you've got faster reaction time. Like email clients are constantly pushing updates. Updates come out like daily in email clients, and any one of those updates could cause a new bug. And we've seen it happen several times, and suddenly, oh no, this is broken here, or this is broken there, or this is broken there, and being able to fix that quickly is a big advantage. And you can just go in, and if you custom code, and also if you've got a good sort of build system, you've got all your codes like building very easily and quickly, then you can just change one thing and then it will update all your templates. That's great. And I think that's a big advantage, being able to react quickly to that sort of stuff. But it is your responsibility to stay on top of it. If you're going for like a framework or a drag and drop or something like that, look at sort of how is that built, how is it updated, and how do they handle things like that. It's always a good question to ask if somebody's pitching that to you. How do you handle things like that? Also, you've got the opportunity to experiment with new things, new ideas, new hacks, new techniques. I've come up with this idea. It's like, well, only I can implement that. Because if the frameworks come up with it, or the drag and drop editor or whatever, they can implement it and then you can use it. But it takes a while for those things to sort of filter down to like that side of it. But and you just got full control over the code. You can be a lot more exacting with what you do with it, but that is also full responsibility. So any bugs with it lies with you. So it's there's definitely a balance there. I think, but I think a lot of it depends is if you have a dedicated code person who is an expert and knows what they're doing on your team, go for custom code. If you don't have those resources, then getting another option in.
All right, awesome. All right, so how can coders inform marketing? Like usually, the developers are not the marketers, and and often we get things from marketing that like, oh, this is going to be impossible to code. So I don't know if that's going to be your answer, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's it's communication, isn't it? It's like some things that look really easy to do are actually a lot more complex than you would think. So like a 2-column layout, like we all do them, but it's actually it's more complex than it looks. And okay, you've got to make it stack, and then okay, is it gonna like be responsive? You're gonna stack on mobile? Is it gonna do that without media queries? And getting all that to work can be pretty complex. And if you can pass that sort of information across to the rest of the team, then they understand, okay, it looks simple, but it's not that simple. But other things that look very complex are actually very easy, like the Gmail annotations. You just put a bit of code in your email,
right? And, oh, those are awesome.
And it shows up in the sort of the little annotations in the inbox. It's like, oh, that's great. And it's like, that's very easy to do from a developer's point of view.
Right.
But it looks like, oh, actually, I don't know, that looks like it's a lot of setup, and do we have to do all that? Not really. It's quite easy. So it's getting that communication. It's sort of, I think, like having, like, I've got this idea, I haven't implemented it, but you can have like a scorecard of, okay, if you want to use 2 columns, then that makes it more complicated. If you want to do like overlapping items, that makes it more complicated. If you want to put in like custom fonts, that does, if you want to do CSS animation, that does this. If you want to do interactive, that does that. And then, okay, so you can't have all of these things, but like equal points to them, and it's say, okay, you can have, I'll give you 10 points, and you can spread it across these things, and you can do what you want here, but you can't do all of it. And I don't know, breaking it down like that, and just so there is that understanding of what is possible and whatnot, and also just build demos, like get onto like build things out and share it, build it in like Parcel or something. Here's a little demo of something. Oh, we could do something like this. Then share it with the team. And I go,
right,
okay, we can do that. But also let them know how complicated it is to build that and how much time it's going to take you.
All right. All right. What opportunities do you feel marketers are missing because they don't have possibilities? I think you just mentioned one for sure, which is Google annotations.
Annotations, I think, is a cool thing. Like BIMI is great. I don't know why everybody's not rushing out to sign up and get that implemented straight away. It just looks so good in the inbox, and it just gives that confidence that your customers have when they see it. Other things like structured data, which is sort of like annotations, but then beyond that, there's the other areas of that. And I think AMP I'm a big fan of AMP. There's so much that you can do. It's the biggest like step forward we've had in email markup since HTML came in.
Does AMP work in every Gmail account, like email, Gmail-based account, like workspaces?
So it works in Gmail. If it's like a Google Workspace account, it works, but I think it can be switched off at the top level.
Oh, interesting.
And if any individual user can turn it off, or if they disable images, they turn it off. So there is that option. And then Yahoo and AOL and Mail.ru, they will support it as well. So it's not all your subscribers. It's going to only a percentage, but there's so much you can do with it, and because of the opportunity with it, you could do a really impressive big thing in AMP that's going to like triple your conversion rate. And okay, that's only for like maybe 30-40% of your users see it, but a big
but you're saying the experience is so strong. I mean, I know when I signed up for Stripo, Stripo, Dimitri. Yeah. So the first time I signed up for Stripo, their confirmation email did the confirmation in the email.
Yeah.
And we're so like trained when you click the link, the confirmation button, it'll take you to another website so you've been confirmed. like to just have like the little circle go around and be like, "You're confirmed," was like, oh my gosh, it was such a like,
And it's
yeah,
little things
drew
like
such
that.
a reaction.
They
Me.
just sort of, they and some of those things you because we're in the industry, we notice little things like that. It's oh wow, it's amazing. But somebody who's not in the industry might not notice it so much. They click and it's like, okay, confirmed, that's fine. But it's going back to that user experience thing. It's a better user experience. So then they might not notice you're doing something fancy there, but they just feel a bit better about the company and the emails they're getting. And there's some people doing some really, really cool stuff in AMP, but we're only scratching the surface. There's so much that's possible. There's a article on Email Monday, I think it is, with like 150 different use cases for AMP, and that's there's so many more than what's on there, but that just gives you some ideas.
Right,
And there's
gets you
so
started.
much, and it's yeah, I think
Is it going to be expanding? Like, is you know, the library of things that we can do with it? Is it growing? Is this version 2 or whatever? Like,
yeah, so I'm part of the AMP for Email working group. So yeah, there's things that happen in yeah. I don't know if I can talk about what the progress and what things are being looked at, but if you want something, if there's something in AMP that isn't there and you want it, get on the GitHub repo and we'll put a request in. Like it's one of the things that I've really learned from being in that group and from working at Salesforce is actually people listen to their customers. If you want these things, ask for them, and then a conversation will happen internally. You might not see the conversation, you might not hear the outcome of the conversation, but those conversations will happen. And if we get a lot of people asking for something, then it's much more likely it's going to be done. And so yeah, really do ask for these things. I think yeah, AMP is yeah, great.
do you know if anything's happening on the ESP side? I mean, Lily Worth is with us. She's been with us the whole time, and there's been a lot of comments going on. You have a big fan club, clearly.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever gotten this many comments on an episode, but there's a lot of good friends are with us. Lily, we have yet to meet, but I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, yeah. So,
yeah,
you know, ESP adoption is happening. Like, is that?
Yeah. So, like Salesforce, we launched supports last year, I think January last year, maybe, and it's growing, and there's more and more tools coming out all the time. There's more and more like support coming, and it's there is. When it launched, there wasn't much there to help us. But that is growing a lot, and there's some great companies doing stuff with AMP, like building tools to help you build AMP. And I think, yeah, we're getting there, and we're getting more and more resources. And again, yeah, if ask for them, ask that AMP working group, ask AMP for new things, ask your ESP to support AMP if they're not already. Just put those questions out there, and you know, it might not seem like it a lot of the time, but yeah, you are being listened to, at least within the AMP, within AMP, what I've seen, and within Salesforce, from what I've seen, you are being listened to. I can't speak for every company, but I'm sure they will do. So yeah, ask for it, please.
All right. So we know like accessibility is a big a big thing for you. I think actually that's what you spoke about when I saw that your speech in 2016. It was the first time I heard about accessibility. Role equals presentation. I remember some of that presentation. But role equals presentation, that was a big one. And anyway, so what are companies missing out by totally just like sending an image only email or just sticking to whatever they've been doing for the last 5 years?
Yeah, so if you're ignoring accessibility, it's just the same as ignoring Outlook or Gmail or ignoring both of them. It's like, okay, we're going to ignore this big section of people. And, it's sending an email that works for some users, but it's broken for others. It's not good. And it's sort of, it's, morally wrong. I think it's one of the things I talk about with accessibility. The reasons for it is like the moral, financial, and legal. Like morally, you shouldn't be discriminating against people. You should be like allowing everybody access to this,
accommodating.
So morally, you should be doing it. And these people who you're discriminating against, they have money, right? They might want to be giving you their money, and you're stopping them from giving you their money. Why would you do that? Your job is to provide whatever the email is you're sending. It's to do something, and if people can't convert, you want them to convert in some way or another. And if they can't do that, why are you stopping them? They want to. And then finally, like the legal side of it, it's the law. Like every country, the laws are different, but it's the law. You can't discriminate against people. I'm not aware of anywhere where this isn't the law. I don't know all the laws of the world, but from what I've looked into, yeah, it's the law. You need to do this. So, and also with the accessibility, there's a great sort of presentation from quite a while back from Microsoft, I think it was, where they talk about different types of accessibility. It's like permanent, temporary, and situational. So a permanent disability is something that you've got, you may be born with, or it may come from like an accident or an event in your life that has left you with this disability, and you're going to be left with it for the rest of your life. So, and then temporary is something that you have for that time, but it'll get over. And then situational is just for the moment. So like a permanent thing will be if you've had a limb amputated, so you've got your arm's been amputated, you just have the one arm to function with, and you're going to have that for the rest of your life. And but that would be a permanent issue. A temporary issue, if you've broken your arm and it's in a sling and you can't really use it while it's healing, but it will come back, but you have those same requirements. Both those people have the same requirements. And then a situational, if you're holding something, you can't put it down, like you're holding you've got your cup of tea, you're holding a baby, you're something like that, you've got a cat on your arm, you can't move, you can't use that arm for that situation. And so these things affect all of us. The situational one is one that really sort of stands out, I think, and you can see the benefits of accessibility. Like if you're out in the sun, I mean, we haven't got much out here in Brighton at the moment, but come the summer, we'll be getting nice and sunny again, and you're looking at an email on your phone and on the screen, and the sun's beating down on the screen, and you don't have good contrast, you can't read it. If you've got
I have a great example of that recently. I'm getting ready for a half marathon in Jerusalem in end of March, and on Friday I went for a run, just as fast as I could, really, like 4.5K. But I got back to the car and it was sunny and I couldn't really see what I was doing. I was like getting through that survey, if you know these things about these amps. So Strava. So shout out Strava, fix this, okay? There's a big button on the bottom, dismiss your run. But I can't see the light, it was in the sun. And there's the save is in the top right, but it's in like small text. And the other button on the bottom is like dismiss my run. And just like quickly I've like clicked that and it's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I just deleted all my data. I'm like,
yeah.
But it was totally that issue. It was poor design for a sunny environment. Like, yeah, I totally missed, where to click next. And I was running.
Yeah, these things, they affect everyone. So it's like all of us need these solutions.
So, poor UX. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely worth investing in. And it's just a huge missed opportunity if you're not doing it. If your email isn't accessible, it's broken. Like this is simple. Don't send broken things, like test things. Don't don't send something that's broken.
All right, awesome. All right, what are for you, like what are the parts of email development that you find challenging?
I think it's the lack of documentation. It's like, particularly when starting out, it's why can't I do this? Why does this not work here? What's this email client doing? And I think as a community, we've done a very good job of filling these gaps, and but they're still there because it is such a huge void that we need to fill. And I love sort of all these open source projects, and I love contributing to them. And I advise anybody to sort of get involved and share knowledge, because the more we share, the more we know collectively. And so, things like Can I Email, How to Target.email, the email bugs, GitHub repo that Remy set up, all those sorts of things, they're great resources, and we can learn a lot from them. And because it's a community sort of backed thing, when something changes, somebody somewhere is going to see it, and somebody somewhere is going to update it. It's not just down to you and your closed off little team trying to fix these things. It's everybody around the world who are helping each other out. But still, yeah, it's still a big issue, and it always will be, unless the email clients come on board and help us out with that, which, you know, hopefully.
Has anyone ever reached out to you from like Team Outlook or Team Google or?
Yeah, I talk to email clients a bit. Outlook I've struggled with. If anybody from Outlook is watching, contact me, please. But I talked to like Marcel from Yahoo AOL. He's absolutely brilliant. I think like they've got the best relationship between the sort of email senders and email client. They're really good at that, and they're really good. Like Gmail, and because like part of being in the AMP for email working group, I have this contact with Gmail, with Yahoo, with Mail.ru, and we can sort of talk there. So it is, I think, yeah, there are barriers there, and there are things that we're doing. There's a couple of projects as well that I'm working on, which we're hoping to sort of help with that side of it a bit more. So hopefully we're going to be launching some stuff soon. So keep your eyes out for that.
All right. Awesome. All right. So we've actually reached the end. So it's just you have the floor. Anything else you want to share, go for it.
Oh yeah. I mean, just keep doing things like, contribute to the community if you can, and don't feel bad if you can't. If you don't have the time, that's fine. But yeah, if you can share your knowledge, do it. And I talk a lot about a lot of the flashy, really fancy things. You can do an email, and these work well, and they perform great. But it's important to have a solid foundation behind all of that, because otherwise they're just going to fall apart, and it's not going to help at all. So get your basics right first, and basics are accessibility is the key thing. If you write just a simple bit of code using heading structures, using semantic code, lay it out, that's accessible. Then you put your design on it, and then you sort of play around with it. And each time you sort of add more, then you have the opportunity to enhance the accessibility or to break the accessibility. And so you start off very simple, and it's good, and you can make it a lot better, or you can make it worse. So really, don't do broken emails. Don't send broken emails. If it's broken, don't do it.
All right, awesome. All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming out today.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on.
For sure, stick around. I'll bring you back in a second. All right, that's our show for today. Thank you everyone who was watching. Lily Worth, Avi Goldman, and another special thanks to Ongage. Check them out at ongage.com.